So the first thing I wanted to ask is obviously everybody's thinking about season 2 coming next year. I wanted to know, have y'all read the manga to know where we're going in the emotional damage land? And how are you preparing for it with each of your characters? Because y'all have to go through some things.
Denial.
Yeah.
How do we even talk about this without spoiling this?
Yes.
I mean, I think the very next one is like the Star Plasma vessel thing, right? So we get a kind of a glimpse into Gojo's past, and that's going to be fun because that's, you know, as undisciplined as he is in the modern day, he's even less so. And he's even more of a little, regardless, right? So that's going to be really fun to sort of explore, and you know, there's going to be so many like formulative moments in his life that happen throughout that little arc that I'm really looking forward to doing it. I don't know how much more I can say about it.
Yeah.
It's tough.
I can't say more besides denial.
It's season 2 is gonna be so meaty.
Yeah, I mean, I
so
can't
just
wait to
like-
see it animated. I will
Yeah,
say that. Oh my
yeah.
God.
So yeah, to see it animated and to be able to like, I don't know, be an actor in something so juicy
Yeah.
is really exciting. So I'm just like, yeah. So I'm just ready. I keep thinking, Shibuya, Shibuya, roll call, my name is Yuji, yeah, and I'm going, no. No spoilers, okay.
That's how we're gonna start off. That's
Yeah.
From an acting perspective, do you all think that it's easier to kind of know where a story is going beforehand, or, you know, just kind of let it, I mean, you all seem to know, but like, how do you use that to build your characters, whether, you know, yeah, sorry, that was a question, and then.
No, I get it.
We heard it.
I have a hot take on this one, but
Yeah.
I'm going last.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so I can judge whether or not I can say my hot take.
Sure, I'll go first. I like to know where you're going because I mean it's like if you were doing a play, if you were doing a movie, acting in a play or a movie, like you would have the whole script, right?
Yeah.
So you would know where you're going, so you can like measure out your beats, blah blah blah. For me, it's just about being able to say, okay, I can live in the moment, but can I also like know like, okay, this scene functions as X in the whole larger picture, and that can add something to it even if I'm not consciously thinking about it.
I'm actually weirdly like 50-50 about it because I agree, like coming from theater, you know, obviously it does you a lot of good to have as much rehearsal time as possible, even if it is, in this case, reading ahead in the manga or at least being told what's coming up so you're sort of, you know, put the pieces together in your head. But at the same time, I've been doing VO for about 15 years now, and all I do really every day is go in without knowing anything about what I'm working on, and then the director will be there to be like, okay, and this is happening today, and I'll be like, okay. So I have this weird muscle memory of that sort of performance, so I can do either, really. You know, I can either have no idea what's happening and just go in and do the work, or do the work beforehand, but at this point in my life, it just sort of like, it does me an equal amount of good.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean like, so much of our job is just like on the spot.
Yeah.
But every once in a while you have the opportunity to be prepared. I like being prepared if I can be.
Yeah. Okay, I agree with what you're saying with the going in and like, you know, because animation in general is collaborative, right? So you do have to trust your director and all of that stuff. But I do feel like, and a lot of times it's not necessary. It's not necessary to know going in what you're working on because sometimes it's really simple or it's like there's not required a lot of you. But for a show like Jujutsu Kaisen and for other shows, like some of the bigger shows, and the actors say, this is my hot take by the way, and the actors say that, oh, I like to just go in and be surprised. No, you don't. You're lazy. You do not want to read. You do not want to watch ahead. No, for shows that are more complicated, it is 100% helpful to know where you are going because exactly what you said, what is the function of this? Oh, this scene, you really have to play up the fact that like, like some of the Yuji, Mahito, Nanami stuff, it's like, we are heading down a path and it's nice to know where that ends up so you can know how hard to lead into
leave crumbs.
Yes.
Yeah,
so I really do think that when you are honoring the original more as well as the source material.
That makes sense.
And hot take.
And I think going from that, I really wanted to know what are y'all's favorite large moments that your characters have had so far, but also what are the small moments? The small moments that kind of like maybe don't feel like a lot, but you either know there'll be a lot later or it felt like a lot to you while voicing.
Ooh. I think for Yuji, like moment as a whole, or like some big stuff that happened was everything that happened with Toto.
Yeah.
A is just hilarious. Like the whole dynamic between them is so funny to me. And yeah, I think obviously Toto has a huge impact on Yuji and stuff like that. So that's my sort of like larger thing. And then we talk about this moment all the time, but in either episode 24. Yeah, in episode 24, when Yuji says, "I'm sorry," when he's about to like basically like kill that dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like that is a huge turning point for Yuji. It turns into Yuji and Nobara walking in the forest afterwards, and him asking her if she's okay because he's not okay, basically, and asking her how she like justifies killing.
Yeah.
Nobara's like, yeah, it's no big deal.
No, but then she rolls it into what is my favorite small moment, which is her whole speech about like people like you only have so many seats at your table base or seats. I don't remember how she frames it. You only have so many chairs for people to sit on in your life, and some people just roll in with their own chair. But like, there's only so many people you can like really care about,
Yeah.
and everything else you kind of have to just like let it go. And I think that's so powerful of a point of view.
I will say I have that still saved in my phone because I go back to it like, all of the
I have it
time.
tattooed on my back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, Toto's up top.
Yeah.
I always get them confused. I can't see them.
Oh, it's so hard.
Yeah, forget it.
But my big moment is the fight with Momo and the speech
yeah.
hammer. Yeah, that whole speech, like that, I was looking forward to recording that for months.
The Gojo versus Jogo fight was really fun. I felt really bad for Jogo because Gojo's such a dick the whole time. He's like, it's like, come on, take it seriously. But I think the small moment.
He's holding Yuji by
I
his
know.
hand while he's fighting.
What a dick! Like,
What a guy.
but like the small moment for me was in the movie. It was I'm not gonna spoil too much, but like there's a moment.
It's okay, we weren't in it.
But there's a moment between him and Gato towards the end, and a thing happens, and basically he has to go straight from that to the end of the film, where all the rest of the students have wrapped everything up, right? But just to see his reaction immediately after that moment and how, not well, but how it appears it doesn't affect him in a way that you would assume it would. It told me a lot about where his like mental place was, right? And maybe it did, and he was just very good at covering it up. But it told me so much about the character that he was able to move from that moment to congratulating and having fun with these students afterwards. It was a really big character building event in my head. So that was my favorite Gojo moment. Like it just told me a lot about him.
I think moving off that too, I think that each of your characters have really defining characteristics. Like Yuji is very much the innocent one who's learning everything, and Nobara is like this stoic like leader in everything, and Gojo is just pure chaos. He's a chaos gremlin with a lot of power. How do you all relate to your characters, and how is it to bring out those defining features, but also the smaller things that people may not notice in them?
I try to remember that Gojo, despite all his eccentricities, is a human who had a very interesting and unique upbringing, and in my opinion, is probably the loneliest person in the show.
Yeah.
So so that's where I feel like a lot of that gremlin energy actually comes from, and also, whenever he's trolling, I think about trolling my wife, which is my favorite thing. So that's really real and dear to my heart.
I love when you're like trolling her on Twitter. Yeah. And I'm like, they're in the same house. So yeah, I just picture you guys sitting in the same room.
You're like next to each other.
And you're just chuckling at her.
Basically,
like,
that's exactly what happens.
I guess I should check my Twitter.
What are you saying about me now? I think what draws me to Nobara is that, how do I explain that? Oh, my numbers are right there. I know, I'm trying to like catch them, they're flying away like the butterflies. Thank you. No, she's awesome. Wow, that's weird. No, she's so cool because she's like a little all over the place. She can be the stoic, like leader, like, you know, the straight man, if you will, and then sometimes she's like just as dumb as Yuji. You know? And I think that duality is so like, that just speaks to her being so young. Like it's so cool. Like they're like really young people, you know? And I think for me, it's like about a woman or a young woman who is just taking life by the balls.
Yeah.
And she doesn't care. Like she doesn't care what other people think about her. Like she has no problem just like straight up asking a dude if she's hot enough to like model for him. And not even asking, no, she's basically like, I'm hot enough to model for you, why aren't you picking me? Like that's the first thing you see of her. And like that's she's so cool.
Yeah, I think with Yuji, I mean, I personally really value a good group activity.
Yeah.
And like making sure everyone feels included and is having fun and like all that stuff, and that and I feel like that is that's a quality Yuji has also. Like he cares about his people around him, and he wants to make sure that like everyone's okay or eating whatever it may be.
Figures.
Yeah, so I can relate to him in that way. I honestly feel like I relate to Yuji in a lot of ways. So, I don't know.
One of the biggest things I see all the time. I obviously love it, and maybe on a little bit too much Gojo stuff.
I'm hearing
But like, how did it feel like when this happened? Because it did blow up so quickly. What are some of your favorite fan responses? How have you felt with it?
I think it's surreal. I mean, it really is surreal. It's like, it's weird to like, especially because we kind of got a sense of what was happening when we saw what was happening in Japan, where like, you know, the characters were like plastered all over the subways and like in Shibuya and like all over the billboards and stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, but you never know, you know?
Yeah.
You never know, and I think all of us have been doing this long enough that like, we will take the information in of like, hey, this might be really big, but it doesn't really affect us. Like, we're not like going out and buying Lambos, you know what I mean?
So it's my Lambo.
6 Lambos.
But you just kind of hope that like, you know, it resonates, and it's been really cool. Look, there is always going to be people who are, you know, negative in any kind of creative field. I don't like this thing, or I don't like that thing, and stuff like that. And to me, obviously a lot of that can happen online and things like that. But these events that we're getting to go to, where we are getting face to face with people who actually enjoy the work, like it is some of the most touching things. I mean, to have people say like, you helped me get through a hard time and things like that, for me, that's like some of the most rewarding things. But it is really cool to see, like, you know, to just be walking out on the street and see your character on like a billboard or someone's t-shirt. Freaking Dolce and Gabbana did it.
Yeah, it's wild.
Wish I could have got one.
I know. I'm working on it.
I think it's wild to be a part of a show that has like exploded like this, and then also I'm a huge fan of it myself. Like that's such a cool
that's so cool.
It's like, for me, like a pretty unique experience up until now. And then just anytime like a girl comes up to my table and is like, Nobara, like she's an inspiration. I'm like, she's an inspiration to me too.
Yeah.
That always makes me happy.
I tell my wife this constantly. Like, I'll look her in the face and be like, I can't believe Satoru Gojo changed my life. You know what I mean?
Like all the guys.
No, it's fantastic. Like, you know, I was a big anime fan before going into this industry, and to be able to walk into your local anime store and just see that dick's face just looking at me, it's great. You know, it's
You're talking about the other statue.
No, not that statue.
Bro, I'm glad that sentence continued a little bit further than where I thought it was going.
It's been fantastic. It's been amazing.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for your time.
Of course, thank you guys.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Would it be possible possible to ask her a picture?
Of course.